Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another round of the Jesus Trip. I have with me today Sir Godfrey Birtill. Godfrey is like the Darlene Check of the UK. He is a very renowned worship leader and one of the few worship leading guys that I know that absolutely loves the finished work, gospel of grace, and he's just a fun guy to hang out with. Godfrey and I have known each other for, I don't know, probably a decade or so. Done a lot together, gotten a little bit of trouble together, and this is the first time I've had Godfrey here on the Jesus Trip. So welcome, Godfrey.
Great to be on here. I've watched loads of them.
Oh, good. So I don't know. Let's just kick it off here. I guess maybe for starters, tell me and tell the folks. I mean, I'm familiar with your journey of coming into the message, and you were just recently sharing about this at a meeting, and it was just really powerful. Because you were doing stadiums, you were doing big time, big ministry. And when you got hit with this revelation of the gospel, I mean, it changes everything, doesn't it? So if you don't mind, just shoot from the hip. Tell us a little bit about your story here, Godfrey.
Sure. Well, I started kind of late, really, writing songs, about 43 when I started. And I wrote a song called Outrageous Grace, which kind of took off almost overnight. I used to be a press photographer, and I left my job and started traveling, and I got invited to play at this kind of Bible week. There's about 9,000 people there, and I was asked to play it. Someone had heard the song, asked to play it during the offering. This is like 20 odd years ago, and it looked like it was going to bomb, but all of a sudden it just took off as I was playing it, because people were just filling out checks and stuff, and it just went boom about when I got to the third chorus, and from then on, just things just went poof, and it ended up playing stuff like Wembley Stadium later on, years later and stuff, but a lot of it was connected with this sort of worship intercession movement, much weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. And I must say I learned how to do the warfare thing. I knew how to press the buttons to get all that happening. And so that's what I was generally invited into, with some of the pretty left field, crazy prophetic warfare kind of stuff, And until about 10 years ago, when it was in Wales and you were there, and really everything you were saying and others who were saying at that time, at that particular gathering, was cutting right across what Jill, my wife, because she was involved in spiritual mapping and all sorts of stuff. We kind of worked together in a lot of that stuff. Was cutting across it, really, and it was quite irritating, and it was like, in fact, I remember thinking, I'm done with this, I'm not doing anything with this guy anymore. But there was just a window when I was listening, and it was a sense of listening to, there was yourself, and I remember this other guy speaking. I remember thinking, listen to this like it's your son chatting to you, talking to you. And I don't know, something just, a switch went on in me, and I just started to listen, and it started to make sense, and a lot of the things that were being said, like about some of the stuff we've been doing. And Jill and myself, we kind of looked at each other and we just sort of cracked out laughing, because it just seemed crazy now, and I remember going back to our room, we kind of both got it together, we both spotted it, I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Christ and Him crucified. And I think we'd learnt a lot of some things, after 40 years of charismania, we got a lot of stuff on board, and it was like a complete reboot, really. I remember going back to our hotel room and we just laughed for about an hour, thinking about all the crazy things we've been doing, as if we're trying to help Jesus out, and it just seemed ridiculous. And we got rid of a lot of stuff. I remember we got a a skip full of books. That's a rubbish skip thing, a metal thing. Where in England you have them, not in America probably, but books about warfare and all that just went in the bin. And it just seemed a complete reboot. And sort of 98% of my songs didn't make sense anymore. And it was like the Lord was showing me that it was just time to leave that stuff behind. I mean, I wouldn't judge anyone who's into all that stuff, but I knew for us, it was like, leave that behind now, come forward. Almost like the camel going through the eye of the needle. Leave that baggage, I've got something fresh for you, and it's leave the camel behind, in fact, because that represented what we built up.
Yeah.
And what for the gospel. To start writing songs, and songs just started flooding out. Things like The Wine is Alive, and hey, have you heard the shocking truth? So the songs became really positive, and there was joy on them,
Yeah.
And so some of the places I was going weren't that happy, because it didn't kind of connect with what I was particularly known for, which was for bringing sort of much wailing and begging and pleading kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So it was a completely different rhythm. So a lot of doors began to shut,
Yeah.
But looking back, after a few, initially you think, what's going on, But after a little while, you suddenly realize I'm sort of glad I'm not in that anymore.
Yeah.
The big deal stuff, you know what I mean? And now sometimes, maybe playing to a handful of people, and stuff like that. Well, like a door open for going into psychiatric wards and stuff like that, or in bars and stuff like that. And it may be just sometimes one-to-one in the psych wards, that I go to. But I won't go back to that other thing, I've gone so far I can't go back. I wouldn't want to go back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to people? Because I think there are a lot of people that have existing ministries, and they hear this message, they realize, because it cuts to the deep when you hear it. And you realize you've had this Wizard of Oz thing going on, and when internally it's like the masquerade goes on. You can't run from the truth. You realize you're depressed, you burn out on all this religious stuff, and yet there's still that temptation to beat the dead horse and try to push it up the hill. But yet there's this longing for freedom. There's this longing for the liberty of the truth of the gospel. But it's scary because you've got career based on it. You've got a lot of time invested in it. And you've got to eat a little bit of crow just to backtrack and realize you've been running up a box canyon maybe 15, 20 years. So what would you say to people that maybe, because there are a lot of people that are just sort of waking up to this right now. And say, where do I go? How do you do ministry even in the gospel? As crazy as it sounds, how do you do ministry in the gospel? I mean, I remember one of the first things I said to you around that time. I said, Godfrey, you're going to pioneer a new genre of Christian music. It's going to be called gospel music.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Go figure.
I remember it well, yeah.
So what would you say? Maybe to allay people's fears or give them hope that, there's life on the other side of the cross.
Well, like I said, I just know I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
I wrote that song, I've gone so far I can't go back, but that was before I got the message, actually. I think it was, a lot of things were coming together.
Yeah.
I'd heard the message as well a few times, like through Winnie Banoff and people like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you hear it, it's just something happens where it's hard to describe, where it just, it's like the light came on, you know what I mean? It's whoa, I've seen it, and I think once that does happen, you can't deny it,
Yeah.
And it's worth leaving that camel.
Yeah.
It's worth leaving that baggage.
Yeah.
To me, it wasn't risky. I didn't feel, I'm going to lose this.
Yeah.
All these doors are going to shut. Sure enough, a lot of doors shut, and it was like, oh man, things. You get rumors, what people are saying about you, all that kind of stuff goes on as well, And
I've got a pretty stellar reputation, so that's never happened to me. Unfounded rumors.
Yeah, and so you sort of got all that going on, but nothing can take away what it is to know this union
Yeah.
in Christ. That you know, we don't have to beat ourselves up all the time to kind of get in and stuff, you know, or you know, this desperation to connect. You know, that you realize I'm actually in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this I'm singing songs of the good news. You know, from the place of knowing that I'm in. You know what I mean? I'm not striving to get in. I'm in. You know, it's simple. You know,
Absolutely.
it's a very simple message,
Mm.
but the most profound ever. You know, and it's such a blast carrying it around. I don't care where I go. You know, I mean, although I'm kind of retired a bit now. You know what I mean? I take time off these days. Now I've hit 65, but wherever I do go, I always consider it a massive privilege to take this good news. I'm on fire with the good news. I used to be on fire with weeping and wailing and warfaring, you know, of a sort, but it wasn't the fire, you know, but with the gospel, I know it's the fire. It's just, there's something in me. It never gets boring. You know, with a lot of the other stuff back in the heavy duty prophetic stuff, there was always something new to go to. You know, this is the current scene, this is the current message. Well, when I got the gospel 10 years ago, it's constantly fresh. You know, I can preach the same message over and over again, and it's got fire on it all the time. It never gets boring. It never goes dull. It never loses its edge. And you're always seeing people just go boom, light up. You know, and it's just amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's the best. Changed my lament to a whirling dance, ripped off my sack like morning bound. Blessed me with joy, filled me with song, and I can't stop drinking my God so strong. Hey! Changed my lament to a whirling dance, ripped off my sack like morning bound. Blessed me with joy, filled me with song, and I can't stop drinking my God so strong. The wine is alive. It's Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. This new wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Drink take, drink take, drink take. Yeah, the good news. Hey, have you heard the shocking truth that you're cleansed, accepted, and justified too? Not guilty, forgiven, reconciled, embraced by the Father. It's party time. The wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, this new wine is alive. It's Jesus Christ. It's Jesus Christ. A drink take, a drink take, a drink take, a drink take. Love, 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 love. I said hi ho. I said hi ho. I said hi ho. You got a halo. You got a halo. And it's a halo of joy. It's a halo of joy. It's a halo of joy. It's a halo of Jesus. Check, 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 check. I said, hey, have you heard the shocking that you're cleansed, accepted. More guitar, justified too. Not guilty, forgiven, reconciled, embraced by the Father. It's party time. It's alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. This new wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. To drink deep, wah, 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 wah. Drink deep from Christ in you. Drink deep. This is where we drink from. We're not alone and adrift in the universe. We're at home in the Father's good pleasure. And not alone and adrift in the universe. We're at home in the Father's good pleasure. Yeah. And this new wine we're drinking is alive. It's Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. This new wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. To drink deep. Drinking from the source, Christ Jesus. Yeah. This new wine is alive. This new wine is alive. This new wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. This new wine is alive. This new wine is alive. This new wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. This new wine is alive. This new wine is alive. This new wine is alive. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ. Hey, 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 of you. Hey, have you heard the shocking truth? That you're cleansed because of the cross, because of the blood, not your own efforts. Jesus did it. You're cleansed, accepted, justified, not guilty, forgiven, reconciled, embraced by Father. It's party time. New covenant worship is party time. It's not begging and pleading for what you already have. It's party time, yeah? Woo. When the prodigal son returned, it was party time, yeah? Party time. They killed the fatted calf. Party time. Who wasn't happy about the party? The fatted calf. I've been here before. That's a new translation. No, it was the older brother, yeah. He could smell the beef. He could hear the joy, hear the laughter, but he said, no, I don't want to go. But I believe Father's heart is for the older brothers and sisters. He's saying, look, this is your party too. You can cry if you want to. This is your party too, yeah.
I think we had similar journeys in the sense that it's almost like the Lord was prepping us before we had it in here. Absolutely. I mean, you loved the whack. You loved the glory. You loved the presence and joy. You were always a guy, like a joy-filled guy. Even when you were doing the warfare, you know. I mean, we don't always see the split and the dualisms and what we're saying and what we're, you know. But and it was the same with me. You know, I was very presence-oriented. I loved the wine of the presence. But it was like then when you hear it, it's almost like the ground has been prepared. And I think there's probably a lot of people, it's like, it's like, yes, it's like a tuning fork that goes off inside of them. When they hear it, it does resonate. Like they were prepared for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what would you say also, because I know there's a lot of guys who they do worship. They're songwriters, they're worship leaders, and I don't, maybe not necessarily practicals or just some general wisdom on writing songs from this side of the new covenant, because definitely there needs to be a theology shift, of course, not just begging God to reaccomplish what he's already done. But one of the things I've noticed about your stuff that I absolutely love, it's less of a pleading and it's more of this driving proclamation of what's been done. And the atmosphere just gets electrically charged. It's one thing hearing it too, like your albums are amazing, but also just being in that tangible atmosphere, you can just feel it running through the room. I mean, it is electric. So I don't know if you have any wisdom for guys just in terms of making that shift, because I think a lot of people, they're just kind of pulled from the Psalms and things for their inspiration. Of course, we love the Psalms, but so many things David was asking for have been accomplished in Christ. It doesn't even make sense to write songs from Paul's letters. It just it seems, I don't know. What would you say?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've kind of bits of advice I've said is don't try to write songs.
Yeah.
Sitting at a desk, you get guys in Nashville, in places that they get together to write hits, and they get good at that. They get a cute tune, and and hits come out of the hit factory, of Christian music, But I believe when you're trying to write songs, you tend to end up with cans of Coke. It's a bit like Coke. They all taste the same. They're kind of, it's all very similar. You know what I mean? It's pop music. You know. But to write wine songs, not Coke songs, wine songs, because wine comes from an area, it's unique, So if you are writing, try not to write cans of Coke. Jill, my wife, checks all my songs out, and she can spot a can of Coke instantly, and file it in the trash kind of thing. But I think another thing of this kind of writing, what I noticed was, with me being a photographer, I was a press photographer for 20 years, and when you're a photographer, you have a trained eye for a picture, and you sort of see in rectangles, and I would spot a picture where someone else wouldn't, and I could take the picture and someone who maybe was with me, and they'd say, wow, I never saw that, But because you have a sort of trained eye, you can get the picture. And this is very similar with this kind of songwriting. Because it's like you're just going through life and you get a snapshot to develop. It may be over a coffee, it may be something someone said, it may be a line of scripture, it may be one word, I mean, some of my songs have come out of like hearing you speaking, and it'd be like one word or one line, We bled into one was that came via you, I believe, and so there's the snapshot, and so other people may just miss it, they're just listening to the general message. But being a songwriter stroke photographer, you're attuned, you may be falling asleep, you know what I mean? And then, but you're attuned to that snapshot, and it's like, boom, that's a song. So I'll like go out at the meeting. For example, with Baxter Kruger at his men's meeting once, he was talking about something or other, and people were struggling to take it in because it's pretty high, heavy duty stuff, and I think he sensed people were struggling to kind of to get this stuff, and I remember him just stopping Baxter and saying, you may be struggling to believe this, but inside of you is a real believer. And as soon as he said that, it went, that was a snapshot. So I nipped out the back of the meeting, and I'm in my phone just kind of singing into it, almost a melody instantly. Inside of you is a real believer. Inside of you is the author and finisher. Inside of you is the heir of all things. And so from that little snapshot of him saying that, the whole song develops. You take it in the dark room, and it develops.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think too, part of what's brought to the table is oftentimes a flawed understanding of what worship is itself, which really stagnates people. I mean, what you were saying with the can of Coke, and I know that's not just me. My kids can do this. I can hit scan on the radio, and instantly you know when a Christian song comes on. Before there's a single lyric, you hear a chord, and it's like my kids will say, "Oh, that's a Christian station," and then sure enough, there's this monotone, this weird. It's not even the tone. There's just this spirit on it. That's just, it's a lack of creativity almost, really. But I think some of this goes fundamentally to our understanding of worship, where it's almost like we're worshiping at God, or we feel like we've either got to stroke his ego, or it's transactional. Like in worship, we're trying to get something out of that, when in reality, is our whole life is this holistic flow of worship. I mean, I've hung out with you enough to know that you have a joie de vivre. I didn't pronounce that right in French, but the joy of life. You love living. And you don't just reserve that for sing-song time.
No.
And I think a lot of people, they think worship is just doing this Christian karaoke. And I mean, I'm pretty sure you don't sit around the house with your wife, Jill, singing worship songs over her all day. As a preacher, I don't go home and just preach at my wife all day. That wouldn't fly. But we are preaching the gospel in our love for one another.
Yeah.
You are worshiping and living your life together.
Absolutely.
And whether you're out fishing or you're, having a romp, it's life. It's all an incense to God.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if you'd say something about that, just the definition of worship, maybe that we've kind of truncated down.
Yeah. As you say, it's our whole lives, and sometimes it's been narrowed down to this like American, Australian style of worship, which is fine if you're into that, and but to me as well, it's a two-way conversation.
Yes,
worship. I write songs where I feel God's singing through me, or to sing, He's singing to us.
Yes,
and receiving as well as giving, and but also I feel a lot of what I'm involved in. I don't look at myself really as a worship leader. I used to do that, I suppose, and I did learn how to do that thing, but I think 10 years ago there was a shift in the way of singing, and I think I became more a proclaimer than a worship leader, and some of the songs really are like mini preachers. They're like mini gospel message, like the wine is alive. It's, hey, have you heard the shocking truth? You're cleansed, accepted, justified too, not guilty, forgiven, reconciled, embraced by Father. It's party time, It's kind of, but the very fact we're celebrating the finished work of the cross is worship. It's a delight to Father's heart, that we're rejoicing and partying in this great news. I believe New Covenant worship is a celebration, and it's not depressing.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a routine. It's not like clocking in for work and Monday morning. It's the spirit of worship is just this. It should be this ravenous obsession, and there's absolutely this place. I think sometimes people start to hear the gospel. It's finished. It's done, and because they've had sort of an old, twisted concept of worship, they almost set it to the side. But it's like, man, what is there to do? When we realized there really was nothing for us to do at the end of the day, He did it all. Well, worship seems to be the only appropriate response. Let's thank Him. Let's celebrate what He's done. We're created for that celebration. Absolutely. And I think that intentional worship is just so vital. And I think for a lot of people, I can't stomach so much Christian worship music, and we've both had honest conversations about this. It's like, what worship music do you listen to? And both of us are like, none. And I think that's part of what keeps us inspired, honestly, because we're not dulled down by just the rote mundane, but there are these times in these seasons, and especially together in corporate worship, where your heart just comes alive, exploding with joy, because there is this two-way communication. And so many of these worship songs, like you said, God's singing through you. I think if you take a lot of the songs that are already on the market, where we're singing to God, you are holy, there is none like you. If you actually flip the subject and the object around, then it actually becomes a lot more accurate quite often. You are holy. There is none like you. We, the Trinity, saying we adore you.
Yeah.
And man, it's the theology aspect is so important, and the spirit of it is so important.
Yeah.
If you want to add to that, but
yeah, I mean, I've got to an age now where I like silence.
Yes.
I was asked recently, what do I listen to? In the car when I'm driving. I like silence. Nothing. I used to be a music junkie. In my teens and 20s. And vinyl coming out my ears. But now I like the quiet. I listen to Radio 4, which is like conversation programs, stuff like that. If I listen to anything, so I don't listen to a lot of music, but I love playing, and I love the, I always say to folks, I often play just on my own with a guitar and a kick drum, but I say to everyone, you're in the band, I always say that you've passed the audition, because it's that sense of corporate proclamation is so powerful, when we're together and making this declaration together. There's something on that just, sweeps your spirit, kind of up, and it's beautiful. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's great. Well, Godfrey, I don't want to take up too much of your precious time here as a retiree. I believe that all of us, if we all lived as active retirees, we might get a little further along, just flowing out of that rest. And I think that's something that you bring to the table. One thing I've really seen shift is, man, it's not the burnout. There's not the pushing, the striving, but it's just loving out of rest. And I would just encourage guys who've never checked out Godfrey's music, check it out. Your website's GodfreyB.com. Yeah. So check it out. Lots of great albums on there. And attend one of Godfrey's events. He's in the UK, but travels all over. Any other place that people could plug in with you at? Online, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, do you know, I don't really... Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but, I've not even looked at my website for about 2 years now, I think it's still running.
Yeah. You're just sitting there on the mountaintop, contemplating in silence.
I'm loving being old, actually. I'm really digging it, like lots of, the pressure's off.
Yeah.
Let me recommend retirement,
Absolutely.
There's no heat on me, to build a ministry or build anything up, what I mean? It's okay, And enjoy it. Look forward to hitting your 60s. It's a good deal, guys.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, Godfrey. It's been
Thank
fun.
you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Before you go, remember, this is your very last chance to sign up for this year's online course, Canaan New Wine Seminary. After October 30th, the doors close. There's weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's too late, okay? You'll need to wait a whole nother year. So check out the promo video here at the end. And then also in December, I have my week-long 7-day gospel intensive in Sydney, Australia called Telos. The USA version of this was amazing. So check out the promo for that also at the end of the show here. It's a whole week of Crowder Down Under. And let me tell you about a few new things coming up in 2020. Now, my next mystical school in America is not until January when I come to Detroit in January 2020, but it's my only Midwest event. So I encourage you, lock in a spot super early. But also in January, I'll be in the Dalles, Oregon, and I will be back in Europe for my only Euro event on the calendar. I'm in the Netherlands for a Holland mystical school. Then in February, I'm hitting both coasts of America. I'll be in California for a Redding mystical school. We love all our California friends. It's going to be wild. And then also I'll be on the East Coast in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for a mystical school there. It is my only East Coast event for 2020. These will both fill up, guaranteed. So tell your friends, book in early. And then finally, I've got a mission trip internship opportunity in March 2020 where we're going to Russia. It's our only trip currently open to applicants who'd like to join the team, rub shoulders, spend some time with me, and get a taste for missions and traveling itinerant ministry. It's going to be a smaller team. Visit thenewmystics.com/intern. you can lock in one of the spots. And check this out.
Plunge into the depths of the gospel of grace and sign up for Cana New Wine Seminary. Explore the heart of the Trinity, the ancient faith, the finished work of the cross. It's supernatural and presence-oriented. The online format makes it an extremely affordable theology course, and it's a rare opportunity to drink from some amazing teachers once a week. Catch the early bird discount rate at cana.co. Telos. The end, objective, purpose, or aim. Jesus Christ is the consummation and summation of all things, the objective of the cosmos. The world was created that Christ may be born. The way we think about God in the Western world needs to be restructured from the ground up, whether liberal or conservative, fundamentalist or postmodern. We need our ways of thinking re-evangelized from the bottom to top. Some folks are aimless with no purpose, others are religiously purpose-driven, humanistically striving for God. But Christ himself is the message. Not faith, not repentance. It is Christ and his relationship with his Father in the Spirit, which he vicariously fulfills in us, created in and restored to the divine image, the fulfillment of the law, the end of religion, and by the Spirit, union and adoption are ours in him. He is the restoration of all things, the completion, the end, the eschaton, the omega, the word, the very logic of God, the ultimate goal, the purpose of all human history, the intention, the telos. Pull aside for a jam-packed, week-long intensive course of butchering sacred cows and proclaiming a straight, unadulterated gospel of grace that is unfiltered by the pagan concepts of separation that have infected every stream of the Christian church. And all of this saturated in a supernatural, miraculous atmosphere. I would like to invite you to a very unique opportunity called Telos. It is 7 days of non-stop gospel glory. This is a destination event where you'll pull aside for a week and fly in Sydney, Australia, December 1st through the 7th. It's a 7-day foundations course. It'll be challenging and it'll be intoxicating. Telos, the end, objective, purpose, or aim. Jesus didn't just bring a message, he is the message. He doesn't just invite us into this union with God, but he is the living, breathing, incarnate union between God and our humanity. Any theology, philosophy, or worldview that is not summed up in Jesus Christ and his finished work, as Torrance says, it throws men back upon themselves and their own religious efforts. Telos is about making Christ the lens by which we see everything. He is the telos.
Sons of Thunder runs on partnerships and generous contributions from people like you. If you've been blessed by the ministry and want to participate in sharing the gospel and reaching the poor with us, consider becoming a monthly supporter at thenewmystics.com/partners.